So what kind of life advice would you expect from someone who's seen 90 years of history roll by? Well, we're about to find out. Today, we're breaking down a framework called the 6 Bs. It's a set of principles from a speaker trying to bridge the gap between his generation's wisdom and the world we're all living in now. Let's dive in. Right out of the gate, he connects with something everybody feels, right? This lifelong search for peace and happiness. He's basically saying, hey, I get it. Life is messy. It's full of hard choices and huge dreams. It's a really smart way to set the stage for advice he hopes will stand the test of time. Okay, so before we jump into the advice itself, we really need to understand where he's coming from. The speaker frames his entire message by drawing this really sharp contrast between the world he grew up in and the one we navigate today. And this slide right here, this is the core of his whole worldview. He paints this really stark picture of his youth during the Great Depression. We're not just talking about hardship, but this deep societal despair. He then puts that right up against today, which he calls an age of amazing opportunity, where, yeah, our challenges are real, but they're often more individual and, in his eyes, manageable. And this just hammers that point home. I mean, think about this for a second. When he was born, the average life expectancy was 50 years old. Today, it's over 75. He doesn't just see that as a number. He sees that extra quarter century as a gift of time. More time to learn, to create, to make a difference. It's a really powerful way of looking at it. So with that whole then versus now context in mind, he offers up this simple framework to help navigate modern life. He calls it the 6 Bs. And there they are, 6 simple, easy-to-remember principles. Be grateful, be smart, be clean, be true, be humble, and be prayerful. It seems pretty straightforward, right? So let's actually dig into what he means by each of these, starting with the first 3. He groups these first 3 Bs together as principles of character, how you carry yourself and deal with the world around you. First up is be grateful, and what's interesting is that for him, this isn't just some passive feeling you have. He sees it as an action. It's about actually saying thank you to your parents, your friends, your teachers, and from his point of view, also recognizing a higher power's role in all the good things that happen. Now, the second B is be smart, and he introduces it with this really fascinating question. This is the setup for a great story from his days working on the railroad, and it perfectly illustrates how tiny choices can have absolutely massive consequences. So here's the story. A switchman moves a piece of track by just 3 inches. A tiny, almost invisible action. But that one little mistake sends a baggage car that was supposed to go to New Jersey all the way down to New Orleans. That's 1,500 miles off course. And that's the whole point of the story. Being smart isn't just about those giant life or death decisions. It's about being aware of those little 3-inch choices we make every single day. Because over time, those are the things that truly set the direction of our entire lives. The third principle is be clean. Now, this is where his advice gets really specific. He presents this as a call to maintain personal integrity, and he strongly urges young people to consciously avoid what he sees as the negative or corrupting influences in the world today. And he doesn't mince words here. This slide lists out the specific areas he's warning about. Everything from the media you consume and the words you use, to choices about your body, drugs, and relationships. It's a very specific worldview, all aimed at protecting what he calls personal purity. All right, let's pivot to the final 3 Bs. These make a shift from your outward actions to your inward convictions, the stuff that guides your core values, your inner compass, you could say. For be true, the speaker leans on a classic from Shakespeare. The message here is all about integrity. He's basically arguing that if you are true to your own deeply held beliefs and your heritage first, then being true and honest with other people will just naturally follow. Next up is be humble, and his take on this is really interesting. In his mind, humility isn't about thinking less of yourself. It's about being teachable, being open to learning. He argues that being humble is actually what opens the door for you to receive wisdom from a source that's greater than yourself. And that flows perfectly into the last B, be prayerful. This comes from his core belief that life is just too complicated, too difficult to try and handle all on your own. For him, prayer is a crucial tool for asking for help, for finding wisdom, and for connecting to a greater strength. So after laying out all 6 of these principles, the speaker doesn't end with a command or a lecture. He wraps everything up with a simple hope that he has for the young people listening to him. At the end of the day, his goal in sharing all this is pretty universal. He hopes his audience will lead lives that are happy, that are productive, and that make a positive contribution to the world. For him, these 6 Bs aren't just a list of rules. They're a roadmap to a meaningful life. So there you have it, the speaker's entire framework in a nutshell. 6 pillars for a good life. Be grateful, be smart, be clean, be true, be humble, and be prayerful. And all this leaves us with one big question to think about. This is a framework from a man who lived through nearly a century of incredible, world-altering change. So when you look at these 6 principles today, which one, if any, feels the most relevant for navigating the challenges and opportunities of our own time?